as Rich said, I'm Simon. I lead our data and AI service lines at BJSS. I'm responsible for kind of setting the strategy for what we do within data and AI at BJSS, and then working on our value propositions. And I still happen to also lead the, I'm very fortunate to have a lot of people in my team that are far smarter than I am, and get to have these conversations on a daily basis. So I think I've got the best job at BJSS. So getting ready with AI, I mean, I could go into a lot of depth on what we consider to be the pillars of AI readiness and the different dimensions that we consider when we go and assess our clients. But I think that's a distraction. I don't think that's all that you need to get started with AI, really. So what I would start with is really, when you want to get started with AI, the first thing that you really need to have is a killer use case. So get that one use case that is actually a good use of AI, because there's loads of things that AI can solve. That does not mean that AI should be used to solve these things. Make sure that for that one use case, you actually have the data that helps you resolve that. Make sure that, if you're working in an enterprise, an organization, make sure you've got the sponsorship, the buy-in, and that means from obviously the people that hold the money, the funding to help build these initiatives, but also the people that will be using these tools that you're building, and then you're not going to make an impact if you don't bring them on a journey. And make sure that you've got some people who are able to actually use AI and build this. So yeah, I'm putting it like it's simple. It's not that simple, but that really is all that it takes. And obviously, then, if you really want to make an impact and actually roll it out across the enterprise, then you will want to have the other things that on the previous slide: a strategy, the right data capabilities and AI capabilities, your ways of working that are, reevaluated in this new world of AI, the right skills, the right platforms and tools, governance, and actually ethics as well. So, as I said, the very first point, what's really important is this use case selection. And so, what makes a good use case? Well, there's a few dimensions I'm going to talk about now. These are just a few of these dimensions. They're probably the ones I consider the most important, but every organization is different, and every individual is different. You might have your own criteria to bring onto this. But the first thing is value. And when we talk about value, we often talk about money. We talk about time saving and how we actually quantify the impact of a use case. So which KPIs you can measure to bring change. And so that value can mean impact, as I said, in terms of monetary impact and time saved, and the improvement that it brings to the wellness of the employees and people that work in the enterprise by having a better work-life balance, by having less work, or by having the automation of a lot of tasks that they're working on. And then as an organization that offers consultancy services, obviously we're very interested in how diverse these use cases are as well. So we want to be working with different technologies, different capabilities and capacities within AI. But that may not be quite as relevant for other organizations. The other point is feasibility. Obviously, before you can get any value out of your AI use case, it needs to be possible, it needs to be feasible. So there's a few dimensions, again, from a feasibility perspective. So do you have the right data for this? Have you selected the right process, and have you redesigned these processes in a way that will integrate? And then have you brought people on the journey? Because people will almost systematically be a key blocker in rolling out initiatives. And they're a blocker because they haven't been brought in. They haven't been considered. The solution has not been designed for them. And then finally, one that's dear to my heart and dear to BJSS in general, obviously, consider ethics. Is this the right use case? Are you comfortable bringing this use case for your organization in general? Are you doing the right thing by bringing this? And that ethics piece, we'll talk about explainability, obviously. Are you able to justify the rationale by which the AI has actually come to a conclusion, to a recommendation? But the other point is, does it align with your values? Does it align with the values of your organization and the values of society that you work in? So what are the right things to do with AI? So AI is really good to automate repetitive tasks. AI is very good to find patterns in very large volumes of data, and AI is very good when it works in partnership with humans at augmenting their capabilities and making them better. AI is not quite as good when there is no pattern in the data. So if you're trying to predict the lottery numbers, it's not going to work. You can ask GPT-4, GPT-4o, GPT-o1, whichever iteration, whichever flavor of the week. It will probably provide you with an answer. That answer will not get you any closer to winning the lottery. If there is a need for enhanced accountability, transparency, explainability, AI might not be right. So I'm a firm believer that we'd all be safer if we drove self-driving cars and we didn't actually drive. But as a society, we're not quite ready for that. We need to be able to blame someone. Insurances need to be able to blame someone if there's an accident. And if we all transition to self-driving cars, there would still be accidents. There would be far less deaths on the road. But there would still be some accidents, and they would all be caused by AI-driven cars. When data is heavily biased, so if you have a data set, in healthcare, for instance, we have data sets which are gender biased, which have racial biases. There are ways to mitigate those, but they need to be taken into consideration from the start. And finally, and I cannot emphasize this enough, don't use AI if you don't need AI. There's so many solutions that can be brought in with a simple process change, simple API call, new UI interface. You do not need AI for everything, even though AI can be applied to a lot of scenarios. Only use AI when AI is the right solution. One thing that we see a lot being consultancy that focuses on delivering AI solutions for our clients is that there is a lot of confusion around what Gen AI is and how it works. So there are a lot of applications that Gen AI is very good at, which are at the bottom of this slide. But then there's a lot of applications of Gen AI that are absolutely not suitable. So AI is not there as a predictive tool. That's what you use, risk prediction, predictive analytics, demand forecasting, etc. There are other AI solutions, more traditional AI solutions that can help with that. So be aware of these limitations, like use Gen AI for the right things, and don't expect that it will do everything. Another thing around feasibility and selecting the right use case is having the right data. So, some considerations to think about. Do you have that data? Is it available? Do you know what format it's in? Do you know where it's coming from? Do you have the rights to use it? Do you have, is it ethical? Has it been acquired in an ethical manner? Is it sensitive? What is the level of classification of this data? Is it PII? Is it PCI? Is there any risks associated with this? Who owns this data? How frequently is it being refreshed? How much history do you have for that data? Do you have 5 years worth of data, 2 months? Ask yourself these questions and how they relate to your use case. And then when we talk about building AI, one thing, honestly, what I'm going to say is it will probably sound like cursing in the office, the home office of the company that's written the book Enterprise Agile. Agile does not work when you're building with AI, or at least not all of it. So there's obviously the principles of Agile are very much applicable, but if you try to use a rigid Scrum approach, that is a terrible way forward. So we use Lean when we deliver with AI. So that means we use hypothesis-driven deliveries. We ask ourselves a question, we postulate it, we build an experiment around it, and then we try in the fastest possible way to prove or disprove our hypothesis so that we can move forward with the next one. And we can bring clarity in something that is very uncertain still. Like there's, AI might work at one organization for a specific application, it might not work in another one because the data is not the same. The data is not ready for another organization. So these are the hypotheses you want to test very rapidly. And if you try to predict everything in advance with a kind of more rigid Scrum methodology, then it's not going to quite work. So test regularly, iterate, fail fast, overcome the sunk cost fallacy, be comfortable with the fact that you've run your experiment. The outcome was that it was either successful or not successful. Either case, you've learned what you needed to learn, you can move on. And then make sure you bring the SMEs, the people that own the actual process you're trying to automate, you're trying to improve with AI. These people need to feed into it, and that's the rapid cycle that you want to build in with this approach. So we call this AI XP. This is our own methodology for delivering AI at BJSS, and that's how we operate. So that approach works quite well because we learn by doing. So we don't spend months and months writing PowerPoint decks. We get that first use case, we test it, and we build the strategy around that and the learnings that we do within the organization. So that approach energizes users very quickly. You get to see rapid results. We manage risk by avoiding the big bang delivery. We align with business goals from the start. We get some stakeholder buy-in, and we can continue to build data maturity and AI maturity and helping our customers go from AI curious to AI capable through this loop. And finally, I don't know how I'm doing on time. I hope I'm okay. Yeah. So there's loads of things that can get in the way of rolling AI out in production. These are the curse words that are on this slide. So governance has been a word that's been branded quite poorly for a long time. I think we're moving past that. So data governance now is kind of seen as a powerful lever for innovation. So proper data governance will turbocharge how you do AI across the organization. So bringing the governance bodies from the start, as you elaborate the use case, getting them to understand, because these people might not care about what you're trying to do, so make them care about what you're trying to do, but they have the power to block it, right? So you want to bring them on the journey. So your DPIA, your data protection officer, security team, HR, cybersec, all of these key stakeholders in any organization need to be brought in quite early on to understand what you're trying to do. The business case might not stack up. It's very cheap to build a proof of concept, and as soon as you move from proof of concept to MVP or to a production-ready solution, there's a huge gap in how much it actually costs. And that gap is in testing, is actually satisfying the needs of these governance teams. That is where the gap is. It's not so much the technology gap. It's really getting through all the hoops, testing, validating, making sure that we're really 100% comfortable that this solution can go ahead. Whether it's 100% accurate or not, I mean, no solution is going to be fully accurate. Selecting the right process integration and working your solution in a way that works within the existing processes of the organization is one really good way to avoid some of the barriers and to actually bring people on the journey with yourselves. So understand how people are doing things today, minimize the learning curve for them as you integrate AI to their day-to-day processes, and make sure that, if you're building a new interface, then use testing constantly and listen to the feedback as a way to gain trust and build buy-in to help with organizations. Because that will also, AI is very charged as technology today. There has been fear of massive job disruption, which hasn't materialized, and people are still wondering whether it's going to happen soon or not. But these tools are not there to replace humans; they're there to improve. Of course, we're going to see efficiency gains, but building these tools for people with people is going to be a lot more powerful than trying to build them to them. And then scale. Not so much an issue anymore, not quite as much. I think scale is going to be more in the latency gains that you might experience, but with the cloud-based solution today and the massive compute that we've got at our disposal, we're not really seeing scale quite as much as a challenge. So to finish off, around adoption, I think adoption really is make or break. I mean, you will only get value if people actually start using that solution. That's the only way to realize the value. So make that tangible, make people understand why you're doing this and how this helps them. Design with them, not to them. Engage early and regularly. So that's that cyclical, that loop of constant feedback and improving it. Data and AI literacy, we talk about these skills. We know they're quite critical today. So there is a need for us as a society to learn how to use data better, how to use AI better as well. And organizations have a responsibility to teach their employees around that. And then finally, keep a human in the loop. That's the best way to bring trust. That's the best way to satisfy your legal obligations as well. AI is there to help. AI is not there to make all decisions on behalf of people. And that's me. So back to Rich now.